How to save on your food bill. When going through outgoings, those expenses, many people share that food is one of their biggest categories in their spend. That a massive amount of their expenses and their income gets consumed quite literally by this thing called food that they consume. It's also one of the easiest areas, spend categories, to really get a grip on and be able to manage and save loads of juicy money. So here's some tips in order to save money on the food bill. The very first really important thing to do is do meal planning. It might sound, oh God, and that sounds like restriction, but in truth, most of us actually eat things, a certain set of meals over and over again. So if you consciously just to choose to do that and plan those meals, you can then plan your buying far more successfully. And so I tend to have a meal plan that, when I'm not traveling, that I have certain meal that I eat, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It might sound really, really boring, but in fact, it's hugely liberating. It's another framework. And I did this all the time when I also had a full-time career, because it just made it so much easier to know that, Monday night was X night, Tuesday was Y night. So do meal planning. Makes such a difference, because once you've got meal planning, you can then put in place your buying planning, and this makes such a difference, because such a huge amount of food waste that happens is because of ad hoc buying, not sure what you're going to cook, not sure what you really want. So you go to the shop, you wander around, you see what happens to have signs around, you say, oh, that looks nice. You either buy too much, or you don't buy, or you just buy something that then doesn't get used and ends up being thrown away. So not only is it devastating for your wallet, it's also devastating for our planet, this whole area of food waste. So meal planning makes such a difference. Maybe for you, having repeated 5 meal plans seems too boring, so you could do a rotating one. But actually, most people, once they start, realize that actually 5 different meals planned and then variability for, say, 2 nights of the week gives them massive amount of freedom. So now you've got your shopping list, so you can also go in with that list and you only buy what is on that meal plan and what you need for that, both in terms of the things you buy plus the quantities. It's been shown that people who go in without any kind of list will tend to buy about 27% more than those who do go in with a clear list, go in and pull that down. Now here's another side little hack, a top tip. Never go shopping when you're hungry and without a list. If you do that, you're going to spend over 50% more and buy more stuff that you're mostly going to waste than you would have if you had had a list and just had a little snack beforehand. So never go shopping on an empty stomach. Not good for you or your wallet. But even better yet, with meal planning, you can also put together your shopping list and put that on online shopping, so you don't even end up having to go to the shops, because a huge amount of waste and spend waste happens with that, oh, that looks nice thing on the shelf, or that special. Now suddenly you're going to buy the 3 for 2 that wasn't even on your list at all, because you're getting hooked by all that impulse buying that retailers rely on to get you to part with more of your money and end up wasting that. So if you've got a list online, you can also pre-schedule those bookings. You could set up a big once-a-month purchase for the things that aren't going to go off, so for that toilet rolls and those cleaning materials, and then you could do a weekly shop for the fresher stuff that you need to buy in shorter, closer terms. It's going to significantly save you on the amount of money you spend on food. And now the next key thing you can do is bulk cooking. So go and buy those ingredients in bulk and do a big cooking batch day. Sometimes on a weekend, I might end up cooking 3 or 4 or 5 different things in big batches. I put music on, I have a load of fun, I do all that chopping in bulk, and I'll make stews and casseroles and soups, all things that I can freeze. And this is super. So not only have I got the benefit of buying those ingredients in bulk, but I've also got my ready-made dinners. So on those days when I just can't be bothered to cook, on those days when I'm just feel like grabbing something, I don't go off and get that takeaway. Not only is it more expensive, but generally it's not great for our health. I've got my own already pre-prepared takeaway thing sitting in my freezer. So I always have loads of pre-prepared meals. That allows it just to be easy to not only eat healthily, but also eat wealthily. So it costs me way less. So I hope those tips have helped you on your reducing your spend on your food, but not reducing your quality of your eating. So I'm Ann Wilson, and if you're watching this anywhere over than at thewealthchef.com, head on over there. And under the video, I would love you to share with me in the comments, what is your top tip for saving money on the food bill? Let's share these juicy tips and let's save you money and save the planet by having load less waste. Because at the end of the day, truly being wealthy is something that is wealthy for you, wealthy for your community, and wealthy for this extraordinary planet and earth that we live on. And that is how we all realize there's enough and live our juiciest, most abundant lives.